What's up, football fans? We've got a big day coming up in just a couple of days now. The NFL draft on Thursday, first round, and we are going to, here on the Believe Fantasy Football Show, run through the first round ourselves, a little mock draft exercise. And it's not just me, Lindsay Rhodes, and Michael Fabiano with you today. We've brought in some heavy hitters, Fabs.
That is right. We've brought in our pals. First off, you remember him from the Cleveland Browns. He was probably on one of your fantasy football teams and maybe helped you win a championship.
Yeah.
Gary Barnidge.
Yeah.
And by the way, Gary Barnidge, former NFL player, now paranormal investigator.
Oh, snap.
True.
Yes.
We need to do a podcast about that.
He did an investigation at Bobby Mackey's, and if you're not a paranormal nut like Gary and I, you wouldn't know what that is. It's supposedly the portal to hell. And he's got, Seth, go look it up. Gary, where is it in Kentucky? Is that where it is?
It was in Wilder, Kentucky. They actually condemned the place. It has now been knocked down as of January. So we were on the last teams to actually do an investigation there.
And so that will be on May 4th. That'll be released, right?
Yep, that will be released May 4th.
Okay. Well, we also have the great actor, Titans honk, James Roday Rodriguez. What's going on, brother?
I'm ready. I feel ready. What we're about to do matters, first of all. And I think it's really going to set the tone for what happens later this week. So
people will probably be taking notes like, oh, James thought we should take. So, yeah, I agree. It's a very important exercise that we're about to do.
Not for nothing, though. I believe that James is the only one of the five of us who actually has made an official pick for an NFL team at the NFL draft.
Has Seth not done that?
That is correct.
Gary's done it. Oh.
All right. And last but not least, WWE Superstar. And I would suggest that, yes, Cody Rhodes was a star of WrestleMania 40, but Seth Rollins was right there. And we love him. He's the man. And by the way, his wife, the man, took home the Women's Championship last night on Monday Night Raw. So congratulations, Bex. The great Seth Rollins joins us, and he will be making the Bears picks at number 1. Oh, there we go. And number 9. You never have to guess who Seth's rooting for. So that's our panel. And just so you know, I will be drafting for my beloved Dallas Cowboys, the NFC East, the AFC East. Lindsay will be drafting for the 2 Western divisions. Mm-hmm. James will be drafting the Southern divisions. I almost called you Colby. Seth, I'm sorry. Seth will be drafting for the Bears.
That's it, baby.
That's it. And
That's
because
it.
He's got things to do. He's got people to beat up. And
I got stuff to do. I got knees to rehab.
And then Gary
I got babies
will
to
be
take care
drafting.
of. But most importantly, it's a conflict of interest, man. I feel like if you're drafting for all the teams that you're competing against, you're not going to give it the best effort. You're gonna, I don't know what Roday is going to do with the Colts. You know what I mean? It's not going to be good.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I mean,
That's
I hate the
true.
Giants too. So, but I'm going to be unbiased here.
We'll
Gary
see.
will be drafting for all the other northern teams that aren't the Bears.
All right. Should we get going then?
Let's do it.
We have, let's see, it's the Bears that are on the clock. I wonder
I want
who
you to
Seth
make
is
this
going to
pick.
take for Chicago.
You are on the stage in Detroit. I want
Since
you
you
to make
haven't
this pick.
been. It's like an
Come on.
audition.
It's
like an audition.
It is. You know what? I'm nervous. Now that I'm on the spot, I'm actually kind of nervous about it. And this has nothing to do with the off-air conversation I had with Barnidge before we started this draft. But I'm going to do it, guys. With the first pick in the 2024 NFL draft, I'm going to take Caleb Williams, quarterback from USC. I know. Shocker, everybody. Shocker. But, we need a QB, man. We traded ours to Pittsburgh, so let's get the best QB on the board, and I think that's Caleb Williams, and I think he's going to – look, we got to win a Super Bowl. That's all there is to it. We got to win a Super Bowl, man. I need a Super Bowl in Chicago. I need it, all right? And he's going to be the guy to take us there. Let's go.
Not to get too deep in the weeds, but, I mean, this team has got a shot to be the best team you've had since, like, the 80s. I mean, I know you had the Jim Miller team that was pretty good, and you had the Rex Grossman team, but, I mean, offensively, this could be a hell of a squad, and it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be available at number 9. So So Seth takes Caleb Williams, number 1 overall.
Number 1, baby. Let's go.
And now this is where the draft starts, although not really. Although Fabs is trying to make our mock draft a moot point by trying to trade away the number 2 pick. So it won't go the way that you offered yesterday in the chat. Like, the number 2 pick is available if anybody wants it. That's not going to happen, but okay. Go ahead. What do you want to do with number 2?
If no one's making me an offer,
no.
Then as a representative of the Washington Commanders, I'm going Jaden Daniels out of LSU. Commanders need a quarterback. Jaden Daniels is very well respected and could end up being a really good fantasy sleeper because of his mobility.
All right. And that brings up you again, Fabs.
I know.
You're drafting for the Patriots now at number 3, a pick that you also tried to trade yesterday. I'm not sure if you got a taker. Are you going to take a quarterback? Or are you going to
anybody? Anybody? Bueller?
Crickets.
Nobody? All right. Well, then I'm going with Drake May out of UNC, who the Patriots hope will be the next, not Mac Jones. I don't think he's going to be Tom Brady, but Drake May out of North Carolina. So the top 3 picks are quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And now, Mrs. Rhodes is on the clock.
So now it's
make her a trade offer or not.
Does anyone want to? Because this is going to happen in the real draft. But I am not really that excited about trading in our mock scenario because I don't know what the compensation would be, and we got to look at charts and stuff like that. And that's hard. That's hard, right?
We're just having fun, Rhodes.
I know, but like I can't do that without being right. It's not fun for me if I'm wrong. So here's the deal. I think that the Cardinals will trade this pick into a range where they can still get one of the top 3 receivers. But I also don't think that they have to this year. They moved around so much last year. They've got 11 picks. They've got 6 in the top 100. They're number 1 in draft capital. They're going to dominate this draft, and they're going to kick it off with a wide receiver at 4 in this scenario. I think it could be Malik Neighbors, but I'm going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. for purposes of this exercise. So we've got our first.
I own the Giants pick.
Okay.
Because I'm all NFC East.
Uh-huh.
And I did not try to make you an offer because I don't love JJ McCarthy. And even though I would love to see him go to the Giants for selfish purposes, because I don't love McCarthy, I would not move up to get him if I were the GM of the G-Men.
Okay. Noted. Thank you for clarifying that. Number 5. Now the Los Angeles Chargers are on the clock. And I too think that they are also going to trade down. I keep hearing from people who are pretty plugged in there that they are desperately trying to move out of 5. I have said a million times that if they don't move out of 5, I want them to take a wide receiver. But Fabs, I think I'm going to go against my better judgment here.
Oh, you're going to take Roday's guy.
I am. Because I think that's what they're going to do. And I think it's wrong. Okay. I think it's wrong. But you could make the argument that the drop off from tackle to the next tier of tackles is a little bit greater than wide receiver, and they can get another wide receiver later in the draft. I think that's the way they would approach it. I would not do this. I would 100% take one of these wide receivers for my beloved Justin Herbert. But instead, I'm going to take Joe Alt, the offensive tackle, out of Notre Dame. And now, Fabs. Yeah, James at 7 is having to think. We're going to have to pivot there, but you have a minute to figure out what you want to do because Fabs is on the clock at 6 for the Giants.
I know what James is going to do. It's going to be the wide receiver that I do not draft. At least I believe that's the direction that he's going to go. The Giants haven't had an elite wide receiver since Odell Beckham Jr. Kenny Galladay was an abject disaster. They have very few weapons. Who knows if Darren Waller is even going to play this year? So I'm going Malik Neighbors. I think that's a no-brainer. I don't like J.J. McCarthy here. So I'm going Malik Neighbors to fill a need the Giants have had for a very, very long time.
All right. The second of the top 3 wide receivers is off the board. J.J. McCarthy is still there. If James Roday Rodriguez with the 7th pick drafting for the Titans wants to throw this whole draft for a loop, Joe Alt is gone. He's the guy that's mocked to this team most often. What would you like to do, James?
So you're like the Joker. You just want to create chaos for the sake of creating chaos. No,
it could happen.
I'm actually hearing more smoke about Harbaugh taking an offensive lineman than I would care to as well.
Right.
And for however tied I am with the Titans, I think Carthan would probably the phones would be open if this happens in this scenario. I do think he would probably.
Gary could make you an offer at 11. The Vikings could try to move up, but he's not into it.
No.
So if there's nothing on the table, and we have to pick at 7, look, I'm sorry, Seth. Nuke. He's 32 years old, and his contract is up after this year. Traylon Burks has shown nothing thus far. So, I think they send up the card, and with the 7th pick, the Titans are going to take Rome Odunze from Washington. And this could be a blessing in disguise, if I'm being honest, because I think he is awesome.
I love Rome Odunze. Love him. I think he'll be really good. In this real life scenario, though, if this were to happen, I think that the Titans phones would be ringing pretty heavily because this is a reasonable range for the Broncos to move up. And the Broncos, I think, are up a creek this year if they don't get one of these guys. So I could see the Broncos trying to move to 7. Also, the Vikings obviously would be in that conversation. But in this scenario, they're not. So we are at number 8. And James, you're on the clock again, picking for the Falcons.
This pick is also is on the block for
everyone wants to trade.
So who would potentially move up and try to get McCarthy here? It would be the Vikings.
Yep.
Gary doesn't like McCarthy.
Nope.
It would be the Broncos. Lindsay is trade adverse. It would be what? You're a little trade adverse.
Okay, fine. What do the Broncos have? They have 8 picks. They have the 21st most capital. Let's play with this. They're at 12, and then they don't pick again until 76.
Yeah, but they've got future picks. I mean, you could have. And listen, you're the GM. I'm not going to say anything. If you're going to make an offer, go ahead.
There's 59 points between 8 and 12, Lindsay, on the trade value chart.
Oh, shit. He's got a trade chart up.
I do.
So what is that? What do you need from me?
59 would be their 3rd rounder, basically, which is
can't be real.
Which is the 76th overall pick.
I mean, I'll give you that 100% walking away. Take it.
So 12, 76, and maybe, you sweeten it with something next year, like a 3rd rounder in 2025.
That feels like a lot. Fine. We need a quarterback. We don't have a quarterback. We have Zach Wilson.
My God.
We have Zach Wilson.
Lindsay Rhodes will never be a GM in the National Football League.
All right.
He's on the phone. He's like, I don't know what to do. What do you want? Okay, fine.
I literally told you before we started, I'm not doing the trade charts. I'm not going to do it.
All right, we've done it. We've executed a trade.
All right, so I don't know what the terms are, but we'll talk about
it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. We're a fantasy show, and it's a mock draft. I traded.
Lindsay,
I have
my
the pick.
virgin ears with your F-bomb. Oh, my God.
Denver has moved up to number 8.
There you go.
Broncos trade up.
Okay.
All right,
you know what, by the way, though?
I'm going to assume that now Atlanta's picking at 12.
Yes.
And I don't know
Catch
what else.
up, Fabs.
You had to give up something else. All right, go ahead, Rhodes.
I'm shocked.
Whatever. I gave up something, and it's fair, and bleh. So I'm going to take JJ McCarthy.
Wow.
And by the way, I could see the Broncos in this scenario where it doesn't seem like they probably should move up. I could see Sean Payton doing it anyway because he's aggressive. I mean, he's like the onside kick guy. He'll go for it. He needs a quarterback.
Dude,
if he likes JJ McCarthy, he's got to make this move.
He needs JJ McCarthy on his team that bad? No, come on.
Well, you wait because on Thursday, JJ McCarthy might go 4 and the Vikings might give up a whole heck of a lot more to move up and get it. So
that's why I'm the GM. I would not do that.
Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson for a second had a shot to start, and now he doesn't.
Oh, baby, this is great.
Zach Wilson doesn't have a shot to start. They swapped a 6 and a 7. Okay, anyway.
I'm just saying. Well, no, he wouldn't compete with Jared Stidham for crying out loud?
Well, that's why they got to move up, because he would, and that's a problem.
Yes, I agree with you. I think it's a good move on your part. Whatever the compensation is, it is.
Thank you. Let's
All
not
right.
be specific about the compensation when we publish this. Just be like, and they made the move and it was a fair deal. Number 9, Seth, you are on the clock with the second first-round pick.
I know. Now, man, this is
Oh,
tough. This is a little bit tougher
hell is
now.
broken loose in this draft, man. It just went so sideways. But in a sense, you've kind of done me a bit of a favor here, I think. You've made my choice fairly clear, in my opinion. You've taken Alt off the board, which, we'd love to have another tackle. But you've taken all the receivers as well, and you've left me with my other major need as a Chicago Bear, which is another edge rusher on opposite side of Montez Sweat. And my man, Dallas Turner, is still sitting here on the board at 9. And if that happens, whoa, I will be thrilled. And so as Bears GM, I'm playing Ryan Poles here. I'm taking Dallas Turner at number 9, baby. That is a hell of a first round right there. Bam,
And
bam,
not for
bam,
nothing,
bam.
that works out real well in fantasy too, because we don't want a wide receiver to go there for redraft purposes, because you've already got DJ Moore, you've already got Keenan Allen, you've already got Gerald Everett, and you got Cole Kmet. You're good.
Dude, we're set on weapons. We'd love to have a young cat. Like, I don't know if Keenan Allen's going to stay in Chicago long term. Probably not. But, we'd love to have a young cat. And look, I think if Adunze is there at 9, we probably take him, or neighbors somehow fall. You never know. I think if they're there, you probably take them. But this scenario works out great too. Another edge rusher, and that defense is going to be stout next season. So I'm very excited about this pick. Thank you for sending this thing to hell in a handbasket. I love it.
All right, so
welcome.
now that you've made your first 2 picks, it feels like you kind of want to hang around a little bit. I know you got other things to do, but
he's got stuff to do, dude.
Look,
I'm
married to the man,
he's
all
got
right? The man
all that
is
kind
the
of
world
stuff.
heavyweight champion. She makes the rules. She said, you have to get out of here after the 9th pick. You have to go and do the dad work. And I said, hey, you're the champ. You run the show. You're paying the bills right now. I'm on the injured list. So, guys, it was a pleasure. I appreciate you giving me the best edge rusher in the draft. That's the best possible outcome for me at 9. And I wish you all the best as you progress through this insane first round.
Through this shit show.
We'll see come November how excited you are about that 1 pick.
Hey, come on.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Not you, Seth, Gary.
Hope, man. I got to have it. I got to believe. All right? I got to believe.
You're
Thanks,
the best.
Seth.
Whew.
Thanks,
All
Seth.
right, guys. See yas.
Love you, bro. Thank you.
All right. Michael Fabiano, you are back on the clock, picking at 10 for the New York Jets.
I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't like where I'm going to go here.
I know what you're going to do.
I don't like it because the player that I'm going to pick is better served elsewhere. But the problem is the team that I wanted him to go to traded up to 8 to get JJ McCarthy. So they're not going to get him now. So I'm going to go. Listen to him. He's Gary. You could probably talk better about him than I can, but I'm taking Brock Bowers. That people are talking about him as, one of the best tight ends to come out of college, like ever. Gary, what do you see in his game?
I do think he is well more equipped than Kyle Pitts was a few years ago when everybody was so high on Kyle Pitts. I do think Brock Bowers is a more traditional tight end. He's given you both ranges in his game. He's giving you blocking, and he's a mismatch when he runs routes. He's not going to have to come off the field when you have to block. And I think and you don't have as much of an injury issue as you did with Kyle Pitts from the time before. But I do think this is probably a really good pick for the Jets. You give a tight end with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers showing what he could do when he had Jermichael Finley back when my days. So I think you give him that kind of weapon with guys outside of receivers. The sky is the limit for him there. For at least for the first few years, because then they're going to have to figure out after A-Rod is gone. But
yep.
Can I just mention real quick, one of the scenarios that I think if I were into trading in this scenario, as the only person who's actually pulled off a trade, but anyway, with Gary, picking for the Rams at 19, I think Brock Bowers is an interesting trade up a little bit candidate for the Rams. So maybe not as high as 10, but if he dropped a few more, then I think that as the Rams GM, I would have been interested in potentially trying to pull off a trade to go get him, because I think he's a really interesting weapon for that offense. But that will not happen. So now we've got the Vikings on the clock. And Gary, you finally get to make a pick.
Yeah.
Are you can trade this one too?
No, not right now. I do like what you said about possibly trading for Brock Bowers if he fell a little bit. I also think the Bengals could be an opportunity for that as well, because you give another playmaker. If he fell a couple more picks, I could see the Bengals have interest in trying to trade up, get Brock Bowers. But I'm not sold on the quarterbacks in this class. That's why I did not trade up from the Vikings and give up both my first rounders to get one of those quarterbacks. I'm just not sold on any of them. I feel they're not franchise quarterbacks, and that's what you're trying to trade up for. So with that, I am going with the best corner on the board, and we are going to go with what was his name from Toledo?
Quentin Murphy.
Mitchell.
Mitchell.
Yeah, Mitchell. Yeah,
I just messed up both names.
Yep, because
That's impressive.
Because I know they need corner help. They don't have that there. The guys they've drafted in the past haven't succeeded, so I think this gives them the opportunity to build on that. My boy Josh McCown's helping coach there at the quarterbacks. I think he can make do with what he's got, and you never know. There's some guys in the second round that can play it off, or some guys can get released that are vets and scooped up for a year. I'm just not sold on this year's class for trading up value.
All righty. Now we've got the Falcons on the clock. This was a trade move. It's James.
Right. You traded with me, Lindsay.
Yeah, I know. I said Gary. I'm all over the place. Okay. Clearly, I'm not a professional drafter. All right. Everyone's a critic.
I feel sad. I feel sad for the viewers, who are trying to invest in us right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this works out pretty well for Atlanta. A lot of people have them pegged as the team that's going to, take the first defensive player off the board. In this scenario, they trade down, they pick up some extra draft capital, and they're still able to address their biggest need, which is the pass rush. They've been really lousy for a long time. They've picked 3 playmakers on offense in the first round for the last 3 years. And there's a guy out of UCLA who a lot of people think is the best edge rusher in this draft anyway, if he didn't have a little bit of an injury history. And at this point, it feels like the Falcons are probably rushing the card up for Latu.
Boom.
Such a fun name to say. That was a brilliant trade by you, by the way, because I love him. I think you picked up a very fair amount of trade value.
That's right.
And you still got a really, really good high-end edge rusher. So well done by you, James Roday Rodriguez, who is not the same person as Gary Barnidge. And now we are at 13, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders who are on the clock. And I'm going to use my phone a friend, because I could tell you who I think that they would take, but I know someone who knows a lot more, and that is my brother, the hardcore Raiders fan, who I've referenced 800 million times on this show before. Let's welcome him in. Bring, 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 bring. That's my phone a friend noise. Hi, Dan Oberman, my brother, who has done how many mock drafts on PFF's mock draft simulator so far?
Oh, probably over 100. 100. I'm a big dork.
Okay.
Big dork.
Okay, so you
a lot
are
of free time.
So you are ready to
clearly related to Lindsay then, yes.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that dorkness in you, Dan. Okay, so you are ready to draft for the Raiders at 13. I know you had your eye on Quinyon Mitchell, so there's.
Oh, listen, I'm stoked.
Okay.
I think this is a great situation. If the draft went like this for the Raiders, I think AP and Tom would be stoked. I think they'd be running up to the board. For me, I'm real psyched to be here. I got a million little things on my mind, but it's all simple. Terry and Arnold, okay? I'm going to run up to the board. I'm going to take that DB. He is a dog. AP is going to be so excited to get another weapon in that secondary. I think there's a good chance that the Raiders might be thinking to go O-line right here. I know that right side of their line needs some help, but we signed a couple of guards, and I think Cody Whitehair and some other guys that might be able to fill in. And I think there's some room later on in the draft to pick up some guys that can go down there and do some damage. But, man, for me, it's simple. I'm going to go take that corner, Terry and Arnold out of Alabama, and, Raiders. We're going to go do some damage in Vegas. I'm excited about it.
I like that. See, that's the benefit of having done 800 million mock drafts, is that the one takeaway that he's told me is that he gets better value. You can find the offensive tackles in the second round, whereas there's a lot more drop off at cornerback. So well done, Dan. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Hey, and don't be surprised if you saw the Raiders pop back up into the later half of the first round and go after a quarterback. So
okay, I was gonna say, because you did
You heard
pass
it here
on Penix
first.
here, so that's noteworthy. All right, but that's not going to happen in this exercise because you have work to do. Go pay the bills. Bye,
Hey, buddy.
Dan. Good job.
That was a smart pick. That's smarter than most Raiders picks that are actually made by the Raiders.
I mean, that's arguably the number one corner on the board. Depends on whose list you're
Correct.
looking at, right? So
Yeah.
it's Quignon, it's Terrion.
I don't think you could go wrong with either one. I think
Right?
either one, you're fine with either guy you get. But like you said, there is a bigger drop off at corner. So I think that is a big need for both teams.
It's one of the themes of this draft too, I think, that we're finding out when doing these mocks for the teams that actually want like defensive guys. If you're not in the quarterback or wide receiver market, then you're going to have some value fall to you because of those guys that are going so much earlier. It's going to push some people down the board further than they normally would fall in another year. So now we're at 14, and that is the New Orleans Saints, and that is James Roday Rodriguez back on the clock.
Yeah, I know that the Saints are losing Michael Thomas, and people keep talking about that. But the truth is, Michael Thomas has not been contributing to that offense for a while now.
Yeah, they lost him like 5 years ago.
Yeah, so it doesn't feel like the pressing need that some people are making it out to be. I also think that A.T. Perry kid has got something. He didn't get that many snaps last year, but when he did, all he did was make plays and catch touchdowns. So I'm less concerned about the wide receiver room and more concerned about the fact that our first round tackle didn't pan out. And doesn't look like he's going to be a starter in the NFL. And I've got a quarterback who's essentially a statue, so I am going to go with Olumuyiwa Fashanu.
Woohoo! Good job.
Out of
Nice.
Penn State.
There's so many tackles whose names start with F who sound somewhat similar. This is a fun one. I can't wait to watch Roger Goodell butcher them all. Because he's going to be hearing them for the first time when someone hands him a card. Like every year, like, how'd you get that wrong? Like we've all practiced it for the last month. But anyway.
I still don't understand how he got Mariota wrong. I mean, that's not that hard to say. This pick here, now, James is back on the clock, and it's the Colts. And he's a Titans fan. I think he might take a punter here. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I wanted to be fair. I thought about corner here. But I also, offensively, they've got Anthony Richardson coming back. He can throw the ball, all the way. He can throw the ball for miles.
Over that mountain.
And what they have in Pittman and Josh Downs, I think is pretty solid in terms of covering the flat and intermediate routes and the slot, but I don't see them with a field stretcher at this point. So I want to be fair, and I want to do my job in this mock and get them some speed on the outside. So I'm going to go with Brian Thomas, wide receiver at Louisiana State University to the Indianapolis Colts.
Good job. He does exactly that.
It's not shocking, but it definitely changes the way that I thought the draft might go in a few picks here. So, Lindsay, representing the Seahawks, you are on the clock.
Now I'm on the board. Okay, and you heard me say, oh shoot, because that stresses me out. I don't know that I was fully ready mentally. Okay, I'm gonna go with for the Seahawks, who only have 7 picks, and the 27th most capital. So they don't have a lot to work with, and that to me feels like a trade back situation. Like they need to drum up a little bit more stuff. But I think under the circumstances, I'm going to butcher his name. So I'm going to give anyone else an opportunity to say it. I just made fun of Roger Goodell. I knew I was going to draft this guy. I didn't even look up the pronunciation. Okay. It's the offensive tackle out of Washington. Anyone want to go?
Troy Fautanu?
No, you don't know. So just say I don't know.
I'm trying.
I could have done that.
Equal effort, Rhodes.
Okay, that's not how it works. But that's who we're going to take. He feels a need on the interior offensive line for now, can kick out to offensive tackle long term. I think that this is, oh, shoot, you know who else would be great here? Crap. Okay, I'm not going to say.
You
already handed in the card.
I'm doing it. You know, fudge. I think I messed that one up because I think he might take Byron Murphy because Mike McDonald is now the coach there, and that kind of defensive guy on the inside might be appealing to him. But we're going to go with what I said because that was a great pick, and we're going to pretend like I didn't ever question myself. And that's the pick.
All right. Now James is back up with another Titans rival, the Jaguars at 17.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I think the Jaguars' needs very similar to the Colts. Same 2 positions, wide receiver and corner. And since I went wide receiver with the Colts, I'm gonna flip the coin to the other side. The Jags need a starter opposite Tyson Campbell. I thought about Cooper DeJean here, but no one seems to know if he's a corner or a safety. So I'm playing it safe for the Jags, who I despise, and I'm going to give them the cornerback Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins.
Clemson. All right, cornerback off the board. That affects one of my teams. I'll cross him off. Oh, whoops.
Gary Barnidge now with 2 of the next 3 picks.
Yeah, so this one, obviously, I think they may actually end up trading their T. Higgins and getting more picks during this draft. I don't know if they're going to because there's disgruntled. So you could see them trade up for a receiver. I could see you could do all that kind of stuff. But because I didn't do any of that, they need to protect Joe Burrow. So we are going to go on offensive lineman. We are going to Talisia Fuaga from Oregon State. I think they would be completely content with him coming here and helping develop and be protector for Joe Burrow because they need anything they can to keep him upright so he stays healthy because that's everything runs through him.
Rhodes.
Okay.
Rhodes is up for the Rams. And boy, there's a defensive player that's fallen a little bit.
You're talking about Byron Murphy?
Not there anymore.
I know.
I'm just saying, and I'm not whispering in your ear. I'm just saying.
I mean, I guess Jared versus it's what's weird about this is I feel like I'm not seeing him mocked there at all. Like that wasn't even a name. Maybe it's just because it's unlikely. Maybe we suck at this and there's no chance he's going to be there.
Even come close to the reality of the situation.
So it's either Jared Verse for me or it's Byron Murphy, and I'll take Byron Murphy. I mean, that feels like that makes sense.
It does.
Best available.
Rams have a need on the defensive line, so
yeah, let's do it. Byron Murphy
a lot of sense.
Is the pick for the Rams at 19.
Right, so Gary's up for the Steelers. Gary, before you make your pick, which of the AFC North teams, as a former Browns player, did you hate the most?
Honestly, it has to be the Steelers. I think the fans were Steelers as well, but they had a very special hatred for the Ravens because they basically took their team. Right. But like, if you didn't play there during that time, it was a player. It wasn't. I think the Steelers were definitely probably the biggest hated rival. Bengals, it wasn't whatever. Their Bengals were never good until they got Joe Burrow, really. So that was never anybody you had to worry about in the division. Now everybody has to worry about every team. And obviously with D'Angelo Williams going to the Steelers, I wanted to beat D'Angelo.
I know.
It was
now that you say that, because
Yeah.
D'Angelo, not for nothing, but in Pittsburgh, D'Angelo was a stud in fantasy.
Yeah, and I was very disappointed with us not getting victories against them.
You know, when the Oilers were in the old AFC South, we hated the Steelers the most in that division as well. They're a hateable team if you're not a Steeler fan. You know,
that is a true statement.
I guess it's true. All right, so for the Steelers, who you hate,
yep, and well, with the Steelers, they need receiver help, but all the receivers are gone. So I'm going with the next best thing because they need to do something with their O-line. We're going J.C. Latham, give them another O-lineman. They need to keep building up for that because they're predicated on the run game. Well, they need better O-linemen for that. So we're going J.C. Latham, Alabama.
Woohoo! All right.
right.
That feels like such a Steelers pick, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Total Steelers pick. And I mean, and they've been, they've obviously, Broderick Jones, they've been rebuilding the offensive line. That's going to do nothing but help whoever the hell the quarterback is going to be there, Russell or Justin Fields, and the backfield as well, which we love from a fantasy perspective. So, all right, I'm up. I've got the next two picks, actually, Mrs. Rhodes. I've got Dolphins here at 21. The Dolphins really don't have any needs on the offensive side of the football in terms of the skill positions, but their offensive line needs help, especially in the interior of the offensive line. So for Miami, I'm going to go with Graham Barton out of Duke. They need to protect Tua. They need to open holes for their running backs. Teron Armstead is a good player, but he's often injured. So I'm going to go with Barton out of Duke. And then for the Eagles, now I hate the Giants the most. Like Gary says he hates the Steelers the most. I hate the Giants the most. I don't really have a soft spot for the Eagles, I'll be honest with you. And I think they're going to beat the piss out of us this upcoming season because my owner and GM, I don't want to get into it. But the Eagles need help in their defensive backfield. On the offense, I mean, they're yoked. They also, Jason Kelsey retired as well, so they could potentially, go offensive line here. But I'm going Cooper DeJean out of Iowa for a little defensive back help for the Philadelphia Eagles, making that defensive backfield better and making their team better and making the chances of my Cowboys winning that division worse.
All righty. That's a good pick.
Oh, and I think that this would fall perfect for the Vikings. I think they would be completely content if they didn't trade up. And right here is where you would take your quarterback and you would take Penix Jr. at this spot for the Vikings. Because everybody's talking about, hey, could go to the Raiders earlier. Teams could trade up. But, like, if the Vikings stayed put, you could literally see Penix still be available at this time. So I think this would be the best case scenario. You'll get one of the best corners, and then you still get a quarterback that has proven he can throw the ball. And he's not as mobile, but you don't need to. And then they just make it work.
Vikings fans would be like so nervous in the picks right before this. Like, is it going to happen? Are we going to get one anyway? But Penix over Nix for you.
Yeah, I think Penix is a much better player than Nix, personally. I think he has shown he's a better passer. Now, he's had the injury issues, but I think Penix is a better quarterback than Nix, so I would go with Penix. And I thought about trading up with the Steelers from the Vikings to stop any other team from because I think the Steelers would trade down because I think, like, if they were going to go line, they could still get them if they traded down. The Vikings wanted to trade up there, but I think that's who I would go with would be Michael Penix.
All righty.
All right. Well,
Fabs,
my beloveds.
this is your moment.
It's not a sexy pick, but the Cowboys need help on the offensive line, and I don't want to take a running back in round one. It's just not worth it. We'll get our running back in round two. And there's some good offensive linemen that are available. Marius Mims is still out there out of Georgia. I could potentially take him. But I'm going to go with Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, who is a versatile interior lineman. Cowboys, remember, we lost 2 offensive linemen in the offseason, including Tyron Smith, who ended up going to the Jets. The Cowboys need to rebuild that offensive line. For me, the perfect draft would be running back in round 2, another offensive lineman in round 3. We'll start off with the kid from Oregon here in Jackson Powers Johnson.
Well, and you sort of influenced my pick because I was going to go Cooper DeJean at this point for the Packers to give somebody else across from Jair.
Oh, but no, don't do it.
So, but now I got to pivot and go somewhere else. I'm not going corner anymore because I know Packers still need O-line help. And like you just said, Amarius Mims is still out there. I think you have to give something like that. If you really believe Jordan loves the guy, you got to make sure he stays upright. I'm going to Amarius Mims. We're going to go offensive tackle.
All right. I think that's a good one. Let's see. So we've got an offensive tackle. We've got like a couple of offensive linemen in a row here. Fabs, I'm a little bit concerned that Cowboys fans, if you take like an interior offensive lineman after this offseason, they might like pick it.
I mean, think about the Cowboys have done really well drafting offensive linemen. I mean, we can go back to like Travis Frederick, who everyone was like, wow, why did they take him so high? And, ultimately, he had to retire because of health issues, but he was very good. Zach Martin, that was the draft the Cowboys were thinking about taking. I think Johnny Manziel, God, thank God we didn't do that. That would have been awful because Jerry Jones wanted him. So Zach Martin, obviously Tyler Smith. A lot of people were like, Tyler Smith, like that high? And he's been very good. So the Cowboys, and I will crap on the Cowboys all day long. Outside of, Mozzie Smith last year didn't do jack. Only 1 year. And Taco Charlton, he sucked too. Don't draft any Michigan guys, I guess. But their offensive line picks have been pretty good. And I know it's not sexy, but we're already good. And you can wait on a running back until the second or third round.
Okay. So that brings up James and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the 26th pick of the draft.
Yeah, this is it. This is how I go out. This is how I drop the mic with a Bucs pick, with a really exciting Buccaneers pick. Fabs made my choice pretty easy. I was looking at Johnson, the center, but since he's not there, I think they're probably going to try to replace Shaq Barrett, is my guess. And there's a dude that everyone seems to think is a really great fit to do that, and his name is Chop, and it's fun to say Chop.
Chop.
So I'm going to give him Chop Robinson.
Love it.
Chop Robinson goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, so that is an edge rusher. And there's still an edge rusher who I think most people have rated ahead of Chop that's still on the board. And as the Arizona Cardinals representative picking 27th, I'm gonna run that pick up right now. I think he's the best available.
I know where you're going.
The Bills are 27th, aren't they?
No, they're 28th.
28th.
So, I'm going to take Jared Verse.
Yep. I think that's a good pick.
Yeah. I think
the Cards.
that the Cardinals would be stoked if this happened. And if not, then I think another direction that they might go in is cornerback. I had my eye on Kool-Aid McKinstry, which is also a rad name. There's some good names in this year's draft. So, but under the circumstances, Jared Verse best available, and that's where I'm going to go. So 28 is the Buffalo Bills. Fabs, which wide receiver would you like to take?
See, this is like my fantasy brain working here. And the best wide receiver on the board is A.D. Mitchell out of Texas. Yeah. So I'm going to go there. Now, I've said, and I believe Gary alluded to this, I would love to see the Bills trade and get T. Higgins. So we can give the second round pick that you got in the Diggs trade to Cincinnati and move up and get yourself T. Higgins. You move up in terms of the talent there, and you get a number one to replace Diggs. And then, with Josh Allen, giddy up. We love that. I don't know if that's going to happen. That's what I would love to see. But if the Bills stand pat, they don't make a trade to get either T or Brandon Ayuk, who, it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere, but who the heck knows? A.D. Mitchell suddenly becomes a very attractive fantasy option. And dare I say, he could end up being a top 70 pick in fantasy drafts and redrafts as the number one wide receiver for Josh Allen. He'd be a big time sleeper for the Bills.
Congratulations. You got a wide receiver for the Bills who desperately need one. Yeah. Okay. So that, should we let James go, by the way, or like James, no, I don't know if you wanted to.
James, you want to leave?
No, I finish what I start,
Okay. All right. I just wanted to give you the option. I didn't know if, Fabs is
So-
putting a lot of pressure on everyone to sit here and watch the entire thing.
Oh, I'm
Gary
just messing
Barnidge.
around. Go ahead.
So
and
if the
Detroit Lions.
Bills made that trade and they went out, I don't think Cincy would take them. I also think Carolina would be calling to try to get a Donnie Mitchell to get into that round as well. I think if he was here as well, I think the Lions would probably trade out because they don't really need a receiver. They would probably get something from Carolina. But because I'm staying put, we're going to go. They need interior D-line. They need edge to help with Aiden Hutchinson, but she took Jared Verse and Chop Robinson right before. So I'm going to go Johnny Newton, interior D-line for the Lions to give him a little help inside so that way he can plug it up, get to some pass rush, and I think that's a need for the Lions for sure.
All right, Detroit in a position of strength as they draft this year, without a whole lot of holes. The Ravens are up next, drafting 30th, and that's back to you, Gary.
Yep. So if I'm the Ravens, I'm trading down to the second round, and I'm going to take a running back in the second round, personally, so you have somebody to learn from Derrick Henry. But because we're not doing second rounds, it's tough because there's they need corner help, but I feel like you'd be reaching at corner right here. You could go Kool-Aid, but is Kool-Aid a first round guy? I think they could get him in the second. They probably want another receiver, but do you want to take the speedster and Xavier Worthy, or do you go Lad McKinstry from Georgia? I think they would trade down personally, but for the sake of it, I am going to go because I think they still need receiver help. We're going to go Xavier Worthy here. Give it a little speed outside. You put it with Rashad Bateman. You got your gadget player in the slot as well. So, it just gives you a lot of stuff, and I don't think they're bringing Odell back. So I just think it gives them some more weapons for Lamar.
2 Texas wide receivers and 3 picks.
Okay.
Lindsay,
I
2
know.
picks back to back and a belly to belly, as the great John Sterling would say, of my beloved Yankees, who got shut out somehow by the A's, the triple A's. Anyways, we won't get into baseball. But the 49ers, Linz,
Okay.
they've, they don't have a lot of needs on the offensive side of the football, especially in the
No.
skill positions. They're pretty yoked, but, potentially some DB help, maybe some offensive line help here.
I'm trying to scan to see who's left at different positions. Because we don't have this. Is Fuaga still there?
Who?
No, I took him at with the Bengals pick.
Okay.
He's on the offensive lineman, right? The tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fuaga,
Yep.
yeah, no, Fuaga's gone, yeah. Yep.
I think that they potentially. I think they're obviously a best available type team. I think that they prioritize amongst the best available, probably linemen. I mean, they always go defensive linemen, it feels like. And they could certainly go in that direction here. They could go wide receiver and create some depth. And I think that they could also move Brandon Ayuk potentially. But I also could see you trading this pick because I don't know that there's a whole lot here that feels like you got to grab them right this second. They could take a cornerback. Sorry, I'm gonna go. Here's the part of the draft where I kill it.
Well, listen, and we already know that Lindsay Rhodes is the human fantasy draft killer, and apparently she is also the human NFL draft mock killer.
I know. I would kill this. Fudge, dude. All right. I will go with Tyler Guyton.
Okay, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking Kool-Aid there.
Yeah, I mean, they could go corner also. it's going to depend on how their board is, right? Like in terms of best available, they're pretty close on Dane Brugler's big board. So I guess it'll depend. I suck at this.
So now you got the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs. And yes, I didn't think they were going to the Super Bowl, so I'm still eating crow for that.
Yep.
But Rashee Rice, my guess is that, he's going to have some sort of suspension to deal with after the stupidity with the cars and everything else. And they did bring in Hollywood Brown, but it doesn't hurt to add more receiving help. Is that the direction you're going here, Linz? Are you going wide receiver, or are you potentially going O-line? Which way are you going?
They also need corner.
Yeah. Oh, they do. They do need corner. And yeah,
So-
because wait a minute, James Roday. What cornerback did the Chiefs lose this offseason?
Oh, they lost Ladarius Sneed,
Mhm.
who's wearing the two-tone blue next season.
That's right. That's right. Did you get your jersey yet, or no? Or I'll order one for you.
Thanks, man.
All right.
So
Rhodes?
that's a good point, Gary. I could go in the direction of Kool-Aid. There are a ton of wide receivers left, to be honest with you. And so I could see them. Honestly, what I think would happen here is that somebody would trade up to get into the back end of the first round, as was mentioned already, for like quarterback potentially. So I think that they trade out of this pick, because there are tons of wide receivers that they could pick in the second round. I don't know if one makes it to them at 64, which is their next pick. So if they could kind of split that difference, I think that that would be the best case scenario for them. You know who's left that I actually would very much like for them, just because one of the problems that we had with Patrick Mahomes this past year was just a lack of consistent, like a wide receiver could count on to catch the ball and be where he wants to be. Be where he wants him to be. And so I kind of have my eye on Ladd McConkey, which doesn't necessarily feel like a Chiefs pick, but maybe it should. So I'm torn a little bit, but you're right. They do need corner. And I think they can get a wide receiver later. So I'm going to go Kool-Aid McKinstry here for the Chiefs.
See, I like the lad just because of it gives you that Wes Welker, Julian Edelman feel that Mahomes has really never had.
Yeah.
So I think that gives you that type of player. So it could be I could see that doesn't fit the role for them, because that's more of what Travis Kelce does. But
yeah, but I like the the consistency with which he plays. Like, you can count on him.
Yep.
And I think he's not, like, you look at him and you go, oh, he's a slot. Like, I don't think he's a slot. I think he's a slot flanker. I think you can use him in more ways than necessarily people think of when they look out there and they see a white guy wide receiver.
Mhm.
So I do like Ladd, and I would like that in this situation, but there are a lot of different options here. So again, like I said, ideally move to the second round and get 2 second round picks where they can maybe tackle both of these position groups. But I'm gonna go Kool-Aid, but I do think Ladd would be a good one there. So that's our draft.
That's it. All right, Linz.
Yeah.
Before we let the guys go,
Okay.
let's get their favorite pick that they made.
Okay.
Any one of the picks that they made. So we'll start with you, James. Favorite pick, and if it's the Titans, go ahead and say that it's Odunze.
Well, I would, as much as I like Odunze, I'm more concerned about protecting an unproven quarterback. So I would have preferred Joe Alt there. I like the trade I made with Linz. I like the value that I got the Falcons down at 12. So I'll say Latu.
I think
Gary?
so.
For me, I would like to say Penix, but I'm going to go. It's not a sexy pick. I think the Bengals getting one of the top tackles to help the O-line. I think that's probably my best pick for that team, because it's what they really need.
Linz?
I don't freaking know, man. Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, that's just the obvious no-brainer, right? Like, that's awesome, and we would love that in fantasy if he goes to Arizona. We've got a really high-end fantasy weapon that I think we'll be taking pretty early. I will say, just in general, I think that this mock ended up being really good for a lot of different teams. There were a lot of teams that were like, oh, snap, that guy's still available and that's our need. And I didn't necessarily think that was going to be here. And so I think that this actually worked out pretty well for a number of people. Yep. I never felt like any of us were like way behind the 8 ball. Like, all of my choices are gone. Now I'm screwed. I don't know if any of you guys felt that way, but
well, not until 29 and 30, but
yeah.
But you could probably move out anyway, so no big deal. No big deal.
I like, and I hate the Giants, but I like neighbors to the Big Apple because I just don't love JJ McCarthy, and the Giants desperately need playmakers at wide receiver. Yeah. You know, if it's Daniel Jones throwing the football for a year, okay, so be it. The Giants aren't going to be any good anyways. They'll be in a position to get a quarterback at some point. Who the hell knows? Maybe they'll get Dak in 2025 because the Cowboys are going to screw that up.
The guys,
I like neighbors going to the G-men.
The guys that the Giants have been trying to tell us are a wide receiver 1 for the last 5 years.
Yeah, awful.
So, come on,
Yeah.
guys.
Sterling Shepard, Wandale Robinson, Darius Slayton.
Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, I like Hyatt, but I don't know that he's won. So
I feel like there's a way, and there's no way for us to track this as a competition moving forward because we made a disproportionate number of picks each. But I feel like we should, track this on Thursday and come up with a point system, like 2 points if you got them exactly right to the team in the right spot, 1 point if you just got the player right, something like that. And we'll come up with a winner.
you figure
somehow.
that out. I want you to come up with a point system, Lindsay. That's going to be your homework until next week.
Fine, forget it. I couldn't even look at a draft chart for this
You
exercise, so that's not going to happen.
Do it. She's like, "Nah, forget it. I'm not doing it."
In theory, that would be a fun thing to do. I'm not going to do it.
Here, wait. 5 points if you get the pick correct. Okay, player to the team, correct. And then you get 2 points if you pick the position correctly and not the player, and that's it. How about that? Will you do that? How about that?
Except to the point that I made, I'm at a very strong disadvantage. No. I drafted.
I'm a super disadvantage. The Vikings are trading down for sure. They're going to do it. They're not going to have any picks.
Well, I think one of the things that we learned here is that we want all of the teams to trade down. Like every single one. Who didn't say, I think we should trade down here, but for purposes of this exercise, I'm going to take so-and-so. Anyway, thank you so much for doing this, guys. Really fun. Gary Barnidge, James Roday Rodriguez, you guys are the absolute best. Thank you so much.
Hey, man, it's a fun week for football fans. Enjoy.
All right, boys. We'll be talking to you soon. And make sure you check out Gary's paranormal investigation at Bobby Mackey's. He still won't tell me what happened, damn it.
I won't.
Oh, I know why he doesn't like any of these quarterbacks, because they're seeing ghosts. But
I like it. Thank you all.
See you later, Rhodes. Thanks, Gary.
And for all of you listeners, remember to check out Bet Online. It's your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB, golf, NBA, and NHL playoff stats. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today, or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Fabs, speaking of betting, the draft, by the way, is not necessarily something that I would advise you to bet on. Like, this is super inside baseball, and it's human behavior, and who knows what they're going to do. And but have you looked at any of the draft props? I've got one that I have identified as my favorite, and that's over 6.5 wide receivers in the first round. That's at plus 180 that you can get that.
Okay. I have not looked at any of those, but I would be interested to see what the number is for 4 quarterbacks going in the first 4 picks, because that's never happened in the history of the National Football League.
4, 5, 6. You know what? For purposes of our exercise, though, we only had, I think we had 6 wide receivers.
So you would have needed, like,
I would have lost
or someone else to go late.
Oh, you know what? And I could have rigged it. I want to change my pick. I'm just kidding. But I think
think about it. Like, if you say you make that bet, it's over 6.5. You said in the first round, right?
Yeah.
And you're the Chiefs, and you're like, well, you know what? I'm gonna put a few bucks down on the over on that one and take that. I don't want to get into all that.
Are you
nonsense,
what?
But,
and then we strip them of their franchise, and that.
It's like, hey. I am a dancer at the Super Bowl halftime show, and I know exactly that this guy's wearing purple to open up the show, and it says purple in the eye, any of that stuff, whatever. But it is what it is.
All right, Fabs.
But that was fun, Rhodes. I had a good time. Even though the Cowboys picked an offensive lineman, it's what we need. Who cares? A lot of fun. It was great to see Seth's reaction with the Bears. Not getting the wide receiver at 9, getting that edge rusher, and. This was a whole hell of a lot of fun. So we thank our friends for participating.
That's a great draft for Chicago, by the way. Seth Rollins had reason to be excited. One of the things that I've decided is that I don't know in this scenario, this format, this type of exercise, if I should be hosting. Because like you said, with my draft capital trade value thing, I can't just let it be what it is. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. But I got very in my head a couple of times.
I'll host the next one.
How I wanted to pivot.
I'll host the next one.
So I don't know that you got
draft.
My best self. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. Give us a follow, like, and subscribe wherever you're listening. We'd really appreciate it. And if you have any thoughts about our mock draft, like, hey, Linz, you're a dummy, this isn't going to happen, go ahead and tweet that at me at Lindsay_Rhodes. You can hit up Fabs at Michael_Fabiano. And we'll be back again next week to break down what happened in the draft. Oh my gosh, finally, this will be in our rearview mirror and we can actually talk about fantasy value now that we will know the landing spots. I can't wait. Thank you so much for listening.
This is the last event of the off season, and we will be off and running.
Yeah. This has been the Believe Fantasy Football Show presented by BetOnline.